Dan Graziano is going to fill us in with some news and notes from around the NFL. I want to start with Chicago. We saw Mitch Trubisky, Bears quarterback, go down with a dislocated shoulder on his non-throwing arm, not expected to.
Keenum to McCoy before they ultimately turned to Dwayne Haskins.
So essentially, Greedy, it sounds like they have absolutely no idea what they're doing in the nation's capital.
Yeah, and
now by Mike Tenenbaum and Dan Graziano. How did we get here, Dan, to this unprecedented suspension?
Well, you just went through it. I mean, it's repeated offenses. This is a player the NFL has talked to in the past, has suspended in the past, has fined.
Though, when you have a repeat offender and you're talking about the potential to reduce his sentence, sending a clear message would be making sure that he sits out the entire year, no?
Well, there's grades of this, right? Like if the longest suspension for on-field behavior.
Hopeful, a lot of hopeful optimism. Hopefully the fourth time is the charm, the fifth time, the 11th time.
I don't know.
Greedy, at some point you got to wonder, like, who's going to step in?
Yeah,
anyway,
I think
land here.
Well, you went through it. His history landed him here, and now you're talking about a player that the league has warned multiple times, has fined multiple times, suspended.
If you reduce his suspension.
Well, to Dan's point, it's already a season-long suspension, so if you reduce it by a handful of games, you're sending a massive message to represent all the players, even if they don't necessarily agree with all their actions. That's the union's responsibility.
Listen, being suspended and losing money certainly hasn't been a deterrent at this point for Burfict, so I'm not really exactly sure what will be, Greeny.
Well, listen.
Dan, you actually covered that game on Sunday. You were in that locker room. What was the team's reaction to Daniel's performance?
They're fine with Daniel. If you listen to the offensive players, you heard Matt Nagy say how well he knows the offense.
I'm pretty sure Bears fans know. Manage the game. They rode Rex Grossman to a Super Bowl as just a game manager. They can lean on that defense. Speaking of which, a little bit of a surprise inactive before Sunday. What can you tell us about Roquan Smith?
Roquan Smith is dealing with a personal issue that could keep him out for an indefinite.
Have playmakers at every level, most notably Khalil Mack up front. But you look at the back end, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller, they got playmakers.
Of the season, I do want to kind of shift gears when we talk about the Ravens because the offense, it'll do what it's going to do. But the defense, you look at that game against the Browns alone, a team that was averaging 16 points a game until Sunday and then puts up a 40 ball. Did we overrate how good the Ravens defense is?
I would say this, like, again, sometimes we lose sight of how impactful running the football is.
Concerned about Lamar Jackson's side of the ball?
No, my biggest concern with the Ravens is their offensive line right now. There is a distinct difference between when Lamar wants to use play-action pass, their offensive line stands up, and defenses can see that, and they don't respect it, versus when they run the football. Their offensive line is down and aggressive.
Fowler's notebook, which in 2019 is really just a cell phone. And I want to start with another quarterback who has had about the best start that you can. Dak Prescott, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and the Cowboys are perfect. So what has that meant, his start and his quest for a contract? You think about it, a few weeks ago, this happens, and you would have said, oh, shut him down for the season. This season is a wash, but there is this renewed energy because of Daniel Jones.
Correct. The